Hi, everybody. This is Nancy. Welcome to another episode of my podcast. Today, we are continuing our study on First Kings. I apologize for coming on a little late today. I was on a former um, podcast and I had to spend a few minutes studying, so I am here now. So let's just go ahead and jump right into this. We're talking about Samuel here. Goodness, I meant to say Solomon. I got stuck on it. The S threw me off. We're talking about Solomon. We know that King David is about to pass away. He's on the verge of death in chapter 1, which is what we went over on Tuesday. Today, we're going to be focusing on chapter 2 a little bit, and then I'm going to kind of be jumping around a little bit. So, um, let's look at First Kings chapter 2, verses 1 through 4. And it reads, Now the days of David drew nigh that he should die, and he charged Solomon his son, saying, I go the way of all the earth, be thou strong, therefore, and show thyself a man, and keep the charge of the Lord thy God, to walk in his ways, to keep his statutes and his commandments, and his judgments and his testimonies, as it is written in the law of Moses, that thou mayest prosper in all that thou doest, and whithersoever thou turnest thyself. And the Lord may continue his word which he spake concerning me, saying, If thy child take heed to their way, to walk before me in truth with all their heart and with all their soul, there shall not fail thee, said he, a man on the throne of Israel. Okay, so let's move on. I also wanted to talk about King Solomon asking God for wisdom. So, what I'm going to start doing is um, pulling like the highlights out of each book. I had said before, I'm no longer really going to be reading line upon line, precept upon precept, because I got to speed this up a little bit because God's kind of moved me in a different direction, but I still want to keep my commitments to come on the 3 times a week. All right, so one of the things that stands out about Solomon was that he asked God for wisdom, and God granted him what he requested. So let's look for that in First Kings 3 5 through 15. That is one of the places that Solomon asked God for wisdom, and he also asked him in Second Chronicles. I believe this is chapter 1, verses 7 through 12. So let's start at chapter 3 first, verse 5. In Gibeon, the Lord appeared to Solomon in a dream by night, and God said, Ask what I shall give thee. And Solomon said, Thou hast showed unto thy servant David my father great mercy, according as he walked before thee in truth and in righteousness and in uprightness of heart with thee, and thou hast kept for him this great kindness, that thou hast given him a son to sit on his throne as it is this day. And now, O Lord my God, thou hast made thy servant king instead of David my father, and I am but a little child. I know not how to go out or come in. And thy servant is in the midst of thy people, which thou hast chosen, a great people that cannot be numbered nor counted for multitude. Give therefore thy servant an understanding heart to judge thy people, that I may discern between good and bad. For who is able to judge this thy so great a people? And the speech pleased the Lord, that Solomon had asked this thing. And God said unto him, Because thou hast asked this thing, and hast not asked for thyself long life, neither has I asked riches for thyself, nor hast thou asked the life of thine enemies, but has asked for thyself understanding to discern judgment. Behold, I have done according to thy words. Lo, I have given thee a wise and understanding heart, so that there was none like thee before thee, neither after thee shall any arise like unto thee. And I've also given thee that which thou hast not asked, both riches and honor, so that there shall not be any among the kings like unto thee all thy days. And if thou will walk in my ways and keep my statutes and my commandments, as thy father David did walk then will I lengthen thy days. And Solomon awoke, and it was a dream. And he came to Jerusalem and stood before the ark of the covenant of the Lord and offered up burnt offerings and offered peace offerings and made a feast to all his servants. And then after Solomon asked for peace, immediately he asked for wisdom. Immediately his wisdom was tested. And those were two women that came before him. They were both harlots, which is interesting. And let's pick that up at verse 16 says they were harlots or prostitutes. Verse 17, and the one woman said, "Oh, my Lord, I and this woman dwell in one house, and I was delivered of a child with her in the house. And it came to pass the third day after that I was delivered, that this woman was delivered also, and we were together. There was no stranger with us in the house, save we two in the house. And this woman's child died in the night because she overlaid it. And she arose at midnight and took my son from beside me while thy handmaid slept, and laid it on her bosom, and laid her dead child in my bosom. And when I rose in the morning to give my child suck, behold, it was dead. But when I had considered it in the morning, behold, it was not my son, which I did bear. And the other woman said, Nay, but the living is my son, and the dead is your son. And this said, No, but the dead is thy son, the living is my son. Thus I spake before the king. Then said the king, and this is King Solomon, the one saith, This is my son that lives, and thy son is dead. And the other saith, Nay, but thy son is dead, and my son is living. The king said, They said this to the king. And then King Solomon said, Bring me a sword. And they brought a sword before the king. And the king said, Divide the living child in two, and give half to the one and one to the other, and half to the other. Then spake the woman whose living child was unto the king, for her bowels yearned upon her son. And she said, O my lord, give her the living child, and in no wise slay it. But the other said, Let it be neither mine nor thine, but divide it. Then the king answered and said, Give her the living child, and in no wise slay it. She is the mother thereof. And all Israel heard of the judgment which the king had judged, and they feared the king, for they saw that the wisdom of God was in him to do judgment. So did want to reference that. That's something that Solomon is known for in the Bible, is the fact that he had used so much, that God gave him so much wisdom. This is also listed in Second Chronicles, chapter 1, verses 7 through 12. So I actually started putting post-it notes and everything, and this is actually Reggie's mom's Bible, so I borrowed this. So I don't want to mark up his Bible because it's not mine, but I started posting things just to save some time on the podcast. Okay, so verses 7 through 12, verse 7, in that night did God appear unto Solomon and said unto him, Ask what I shall give thee. Verse 8, and Solomon said unto God, Thou hast showed me great mercy unto David my father, and hast made me to reign in his stead. Now, O Lord, let thy promise unto David my father be established, for thou hast made me king over a people like the dust of the earth in multitude. Give me now wisdom and knowledge, that I may go out and come in before this people. For who can judge this thy people that is so great? And God said to Solomon, Because this was in thine heart, and thou hast not asked riches, wealth, or honor, nor the life of thine enemies, neither yet hast thou asked long life, but hast asked wisdom and knowledge for thyself, and that thou mayest judge my people over whom I have made thee king. Wisdom and knowledge is granted unto thee, and I will give thee riches and wealth and honor, such as none of the king have had that have been before thee, neither shall there be any after thee have the like. So that is, in a nutshell, God granting Solomon the wisdom that he had prayed for. That's really all I have to talk about today. Saturday, I'm going to talk about how Solomon was blessed to be able to make the temple in Israel, because David's hands were too bloody to do that. David was a man of war. He is I think David is one of the most pivotal characters in the Old Testament because, as far as I know, he's the only one who stood in the office of prophet, priest, and king, which makes him so important in the Old Testament. Seems like I wanted to say something else about Solomon. Oh, I wanted to say that I don't believe, I'll have to check, the eldest child of David, I do not think is Solomon, because Solomon had already, when he married Bathsheba, I think he'd already had two or three wives by then. I think he had already been married to Michal and to, um, what is her name? Another wife, another one of David's wives. I can't think of her name off the top of my head, but I believe that maybe her name was Abigail. Let's see, I can check it real quick. So I do, even though he did not have any children with Michal, I want to say that he probably had children with Abigail. Needless to say, yeah, Abigail. Before he married Bathsheba. So I said all that to say that Solomon was probably not the eldest son, which makes his relationship with Bathsheba even more interesting because it shows that God in his mercy, even, what can come out of this dead circumstantial situation. And that was a king was birthed out of the circumstance after his first baby had died, their first child had died. So I did want to mention that. So look forward to seeing you all on Saturday to talk about the temple that Solomon created. And until then, everybody have a blessed evening. See you all on Saturday. Bye bye.